All right, what surprise is hiding for us in the damageable system? I wonder. The same thing. All right, this isn't even a surprise anymore.
Hey, this is why you add indexes to your database tables. Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm into it. Damageables equals. Yeah, just call me Postgres 9.2 today because I'm indexing the heck out of this. How you doing? Happy Monday. Monday?
Yeah, happy Monday. I feel disoriented this Monday for some reason.
Same. I was in Mendocino this weekend,
Okay.
but also a lot of shit just happened today.
What? Oh, you talking about the Supreme Court or?
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
just felt like. I mean, like, I'm not surprised that the racist people did the racist thing they said they were going to do,
Yeah.
but also like just kind of like just it's just a barrage.
Yeah. What else
Even when
happened
you see it
today?
coming. I feel like maybe I just saw too many like highlights of Trump giving some speeches,
Yeah.
or a few too many like COVID hit the new record number of cases. Just I don't know. I did
All
my
right.
poll
Tell
worker
me about your
training.
Mendocino
Yeah,
trip. I want to get my mind off of that stuff.
there's the good shit. Yeah, no, I went to a campground in Mendocino that was run by this guy named Cosmo.
Okay.
And Cosmo is exactly like you expect someone named Cosmo to be.
All
He
right.
was like a guy who lived in a compound in the woods in the middle of like the Mendocino forest,
And
who,
smokes a
who
ton of weed. And
is farming weed on Cosmo's weed farm. Also is smoking fish in Cosmo's fish smoking shack next to Cosmo's weed farm. And like he just made a hip camp because he wants to like have people camp on his weird property. It was truly bizarre and delightful and a lovely place to be.
wow.
Yeah, I can send you to Cosmo if you want. But yeah,
Did you have any
it,
of his crop?
no, I did not partake in any of
Okay.
Cosmo's Cosmo experience, but beyond camping on the campground.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, it was, as far as I could tell, an extremely Mendocino
Were
experience.
you ever straight edge? Did you have a
Yeah,
straight edge phase? Yeah.
I'm still like 50% straight edge. I don't know, man. It's just like I like being me, and that sort of stuff makes me not feel like me. So
Yeah.
it's a fine line.
Yeah. I feel you. I'm gonna go ahead and switch us over to development view so we can get right into it. What do you
Bring it
say?
on. All right. Well, this is the game,
So
and
prior to coming online, there were accusations that I broke the game. So I want to hear about this.
well, you broke the game, but only in a branch. So does that count?
Oh,
You chose not to merge it, which was the correct choice.
I was about to merge it. If you had said looks good, I would have merged it.
Well, I did, and then I said, let me look at it some more, and I tried to give you the professional, like, I'm gonna run your code before I say fuck yeah.
Yeah. So we're
And then
looking at what appears to be a terrible crash right now.
I accidentally, yeah, if you shoot a wall, the game crashes. And it's honestly it's blowing out the entire stack, which is a bit complicated to debug.
Oh.
And it seems, yeah,
Can I walk you through some of the recent commits? You might
absolutely.
be
And
happy.
we are on your branch right now, so
Okay. Um,
yeah,
so maybe GitHub is a better view for this.
let's do it. Looking at us, you want to look at the branch?
Just commits actually.
Oh,
If you go to
great.
the code view and go to the commits,
Mm.
there's a few things.
Oh yeah, you added a bunch of stuff. All right.
Yeah. Okay, so going all the way down, we'll blow through these. It'll be fast, I
Mm-hmm.
promise.
Mm-hmm.
Since last session, I went ahead and did the opaque type thing with our IDs. So
I love it.
basically, all of our IDs are now they're still strings. You're looking at
Mm-hmm.
the important thing though, which is the entity
Mm-hmm.
ID Typescript file. So I actually had to go into the Typescript Discord to ask them exactly how this trick works.
Oh, wow.
And it went about as I expected. I got like an informative but somewhat pedantic interaction, which led to my understanding. Um, And perhaps I don't know. Maybe it's in the way that I ask things, but I for some reason I had sort of anticipated that something of that kind of response. Uh, but so basically, the idea here is we want to create a type that is basically just fundamentally a string. You can do everything that you want with a string, but the only thing you can't do is if a variable has this type, you don't want to be able to assign raw strings into that type. And this is known as an opaque type alias. It's just an alias over a string, and it has no runtime cost. So it's not like you're like wrapping it in another object or something like that. Has no runtime cost, but at type check time, it'll basically guarantee that you basically can't liberally convert at least plain strings into this type. You can go the other direction and use this type as a string, and it's fine.
Okay.
So
does something like so you said no runtime cost, but we actually is this function insertion sort of the one trick to get around that?
Well, funnily enough, if you look at the body of that function, it's actually just an as expression. And I made another commit that's ahead of this one, that's after this one, that I basically said, you know what, this function's silly. All it is this as expression, and it's not necessary. So I got rid of the cast function. The cast makes it a little bit more legit and opaque seeming, but I think I was actually worried about the exact thing that you were worried about, which is like, are we inserting a no-op into the call stack, basically? Now, you would think that maybe because JavaScript is just-in-time compiled, that the actual assembly code that like it boils down to maybe is intelligent enough to not have that anymore, but I don't really know.
But also there was that bug I talked about last week where Safari is 50% slower for constant lets. So I don't trust anything. I don't trust anything in JavaScript anymore.
Okay. So the real moneymaker is line 5, right? And basically, this is a type expression. It compiles down to nothing, right? Like this doesn't exist at runtime. And what it's saying is that the entity ID type is this curious intersection of a string and an enum value, which is a string enum value. But basically, the point of line 5 is you're supposed to set something that is an impossible type. It is one that you could not ever create by setting properties on an object, right?
Gotcha. That's kind of what I was like, is this supposed to be a signature? Like string can never fulfill entity ID brands underscore property.
Yeah. The other way that people do this is they make an interface called entity ID brand or whatever, and then they set a property on it called like under tag, and they set it equal to some value that in practice you're never going to do on a string. Now strings are objects, right? So you can do string value dot and then set like a property on a string in JavaScript. And so you could theoretically create a string that had that property on it, but because you're assigning it some ridiculous value, in practice it's never going to happen, right? That's the general idea.
Some TypeScript goodness here.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to basically create you could actually do something on line 5 like string ampersand number as well, and that would also suitably do it as well, like string ampersand number. That is actually an impossible type to realize at runtime. It just can't exist. But
so, ampersanding with an enum, what is, because the interface one makes sense to me, but having this be an enum value, it's not. I don't even know what ampersanding with an enum does in terms of like what the logical type is expected to be.
Yeah, so ampersanding it with an enum basically says that not only is it a string, but it's a string that satisfies the entity ID brand. It's like a member of entity ID brand or something like that. And since it's not exported, you can't ever create that, right? So the whole point of this is just to basically say, I want to create a type signature that's impossible, right? So you could do a lot of other things with that. You could like AND it with object and stuff like that. But the thing you want to make sure you do is that you make a type signature that's not only impossible, but also one that like doesn't add extra behavior to that type that shouldn't be there. And so I actually sort of asked this as a rhetorical question when I was like trying to figure out what was going on. It's like, let's say I want to make an opaque type over a number. It's not a string, but it's a number. And my ID type was number ampersand string.
Mhm.
And the person I was talking to said basically, well, you can do that, but then the type checker is going to think that any instance of your type alias is going to have like string methods on it. It's going to think it's got index of, it's going to think it's got match, all those things.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so what you want to try to do is you're just trying to create any impossible type that that basically has the behaviors that you want on it and none that you don't want. And so that's what's going on here. And then line 8 also does some work here, like that as basically says like, hey, type checker, I don't care what you think S is. It's this type, and I don't want you to think about it anymore. That's why you can basically assign this to this impossible type. Is you basically like you can't actually create an impossible type, but you're just telling the type checker, hey, chill. I've got this.
Right. So we have the ability to explicitly mark something as an entity ID, but nothing can accidentally become an entity ID unless we've told it that this is the type first. That's great.
Unless you literally type as entity ID.
And this is because TypeScript types are structural, meaning that like if a string for some reason did satisfy this, it would just let us slap it into
that type. Exactly.
Right.
It's structural.
Yeah.
Right. So that's essentially it. And then one consequence of this is that if you look at line 20, it becomes a little bit complicated to make what are known as TypeScript records, which are just objects, key value objects. It becomes a little bit weird using records that have alternate types as their key. So the traditional hack around this is to use the built-in map structure.
Right.
And I actually really like the map structure because it gives you a really nice iteration pattern. So you actually see in this PR or this commit rather that my iterations become like line 67.
That's nice.
And then I do a destructuring array there. So it's basically when you iterate using the of property, the of keyword, you're iterating over values, and the values of that come out of a map iterator is basically a tuple of the key and the value together, which is surprisingly what we want a lot of the time.
Delightful. Yeah, that's really what I wish the object iterator did in the first place. So cool.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that commit. Nice kind of clarity win because now we know when we want IDs exactly. So fix Chrome debugging. This will help for today.
Nice.
I think we had it working when the entry point was at the top level. It was like a main.js at the top level of the repo. I think once it moved into source, other things shifted around. I didn't really reason this one out. I basically just like tried a billion different combinations of paths in the launch.json file until I found one that worked. And this is the one that works.
It's interesting. I noticed that when I found the crash earlier, I was immediately able to jump to the line of source. So that must have been the fix.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then I don't know how to make it attached to Safari, but you're in Chrome right now, or you're in Firefox?
Oh, I'm in Firefox. So I guess source maps are working, but this is actually for the debugging. So
yeah. And then I think it has to attach to Chrome because like it uses the V8 debugging protocol. Like I think.
Yeah. Then Chrome we shall do today.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that should help us debug the thing that we're doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Login.
Yeah, that got rid of that.
Quad tree bug.
Yeah, this is a quad tree bug that was causing some crashes after I did the entity ID thing, and it didn't make any sense. I was like, what? This seems impossible. But basically what we were doing is we were removing the item that we just added all the time in a loop. Item is the thing that gets added inside node insert. But by the time we get down to here, what we're doing is this is the code that like changes a leaf node on a quad tree into an intermediate node. And what we want to do is reinsert all of its like objects that it's containing inside of it back into the quad tree. But the problem is we were doing item every single time, if you notice that, on line 130.
Oh.
We should have been using I, not item.
Yep. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder, is that merged into this branch?
It is. This is on master.
Okay. No, just making sure, because that sure seems like, I definitely feel like the quad tree was looping infinitely on something. So, yeah. But not this.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. How does this ever work?
I don't know. I think it just accidentally worked. Because I think the idea there is that we had, because we weren't removing these intermediate nodes, they were just in. We had a lot of objects that were in the quad tree that were just in the intermediate spaces. Then they would, I think, never get returned, right? Like, I think if you're an intermediate node on the quad tree, we never look at your items list, right? We assume you don't have one.
Yeah. Oh, I see. We inserted I. We just didn't remove it from the node. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
This is just a rename thing. And then I renamed it again.
Okay. Bullets to query.
I added bullets because we changed the renderer to use the query, so we weren't drawing bullets anymore. So I added it back in.
That's correct. Okay, so now you have to very carefully not shoot a wall. But great. So this is with Love it. Query spatial index, query by world
position. That's actually what we're doing. We're not, the spatial index is the quad tree, but not everything goes into the spatial index, right? That's why I renamed it.
Taking that. Let's see.
This is the thing that we just talked about. The cast is pointless. I just need to tell the type checker, hey, this string is actually an entity ID. Yeah.
And I like that we have to just explicitly do this.
Yep.
And it's extremely a no-op because we know this is compiled out versus whatever this was. So
exactly. Add ID to quad tree generic interface. Basically, I made the quad tree also take an ID type just because it felt weird that we were forcing it to be a string when it technically could be anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and then these are the tests that can be strings. Yeah,
yes.
Totally.
Yep.
A little more generic.
A little bit more cleanup. Yeah.
And then, player lookup becomes a map because it's entity ID. Sweet.
Yes. Yeah. So if you think about it, that I've actually reversed the lookup relationship. We used to key it off of the player number, and then we would get the entity ID. I just flipped that around. It's technically less efficient for the get player function because we have to iterate now. So if you look at line 101 below, I think that's fine.
I think so too.
The reason why I did this is that I think, you know how we were talking about, let's make the components, let's make the entity manager just like a big bag of components that map, or rather containers that map entity IDs to the component values. I think players is the first of that, basically. Players is essentially the first example of that.
I was wondering how often we did get player, because I think a lot of our stuff, not a lot of these, just this one. I was wondering about indexing by player number versus, should we actually just go by entity ID? Because player number is really only useful for the client the first time. We don't necessarily need it here because the entity could send the message too. So
right.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is fine, and
it should be cheap.
This makes a lot of sense though.
So this is sort of like the first piece of groundwork for getting rid of the entity class altogether, and just again making the entity manager just this it's going to have dozens of maps between entity IDs and some component value, or a bunch of sets of entity IDs in the case of like Boolean flags. Like, is something a wall or not? Probably should just be a set that has a bunch of entity IDs in it, right?
Yep. Ah, that's cool. Okay.
Which brings us to, I think, the branch that we're on, which was kind of me pushing that idea further. And the idea here is that I was starting to get really confused about how we deal with data structures that deal with multiplayer versus data structures that deal with prediction. Rather, no, those are the two of the same things, but rather data structures that deal with prediction, data structures that deal with indexing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I think last stream we had a lot of conversations where we were trying to work out in our head, like, because it's predicted, it's not in the index right now. And, and so back and forth, we had a lot of those kinds of things, and I think it's only going to get more complicated. So what I prefer we see if we can do, if it's performant, is to try to think of those things as two completely different orthogonal concerns, right?
Okay.
It's okay for moving objects to not be in the spatial index yet. That's a different thing altogether. But I don't want to have to like compute what's going on with prediction when I'm thinking about what's in the index. I'd rather just let the index be accurate all the time, which is basically what this commit is trying to go for.
Great. So we're gonna do addition and removal to the spatial index just as much as we want to, and yeah.
So basically, when we index an entity, so like this is just like what happens when you add a new entity to the entity manager that's not in there already. You basically just like stick it in the entities mapping. That's line 126. And that's going to go away eventually, right? If we have a bunch of just like bags of components, probably that's not even going to be there. But we are going to stick it into the player's map, for example, if it's a player. And if it's a tree, turd, or wall, we're going to stick it in the quad tree. If it has a transform, we're going to stick it into the mapping of entity IDs transforms. It's going to be like, this is the place where we update all of those things. And then unindex is the exact opposite of that. We'll just remove it from everything. So basically everything that is mapped, any set that's keyed by entity ID or any map that's keyed by entity ID, we're just going to call remove on it every single time, whether it's in there or not. And if it's not in there, it's just a no op, right?
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so unindex is the process of deletion, essentially. And
yes,
we do this.
Exactly.
Great. Put it in predicted deletes. Okay. Now, it's in predicted deletes, but we've checkpointed it. So actually, we can reverse it out of checkpointed entities if we need to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So the other thing that this branch did is it once again renamed our restore checkpoint, clear checkpoint functions, which we renamed last time. The name du jour, so it's like I've not said on this, is the restore checkpoint is undo prediction, which basically says, I want you to like take off all the state in the entity manager that has to do with prediction. And so what we do is we reindex all of the checkpointed entities. And this should be index entity should be idempotent, but I don't know if it 100% is. In fact, that might be our bug.
I think that is the bug because reindexing reinserts the object into the quad tree on checkpointing.
Yeah.
But like the wall never left the quad tree.
Yeah. So So how would we like to deduplicate that? Should we?
Well, I think quad tree insertion could be idempotent as well. Like we can actually go into the quad tree, like since it even has an ID map now, we can just say like, do you have this ID? If so, remove it first and reinsert. But insert or do you have this ID? Great. Compare the position and then decide if you need to move it or not.
Right.
But I feel like this is the current.
Feels like the bug. Yeah.
Well, and especially if we predict, if I hit a wall, it gets predicted 5 frames of prediction. It's gotten reinserted multiple times, and then removing the same entity ID multiple times becomes a sort of unclear The bug might also be unindexing. I don't know if we do that here. Undo prediction. Undo prediction reindexes checkpoint entities. Okay.
So you're right. Undo prediction probably needs to remove stuff that got added, right?
Yeah, which it does with this dot entities
dot delete.
That this should be unindexed right here.
This should be unindexed. Yes. Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Index. And then okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the thing that I kind of failed to update there. So cool. I guess reindex needs to be idempotent down to each index, right? So when I say an index, what I mean is any kind of map that is keyed by an entity ID. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much that index entity needs to early out if the entities map has the ID. It means we have to actually go component by component and like reindex it, right? Because
totally. Yeah. Well, and I think for like entities and players and future component buckets, we are taking like the snapshot and throwing it back in there, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I think it's just the quad tree that needs to say like, I've already got this ID, like I'm not going to operate on that.
Or we do this dot quad tree remove the entity ID and then add it back in there, because the AABB might have changed, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's the big question. Like should the quad tree right now sort of we know it's for non-moving objects, but it might be nice if it did support that someday. So yeah, choosing to reindex. What can we do with that?
Yeah, the problem is if we remove, every checkpointed entity is going to get removed and added again, right? Which may not be the worst thing in the world.
Our checkpoint entities are, and especially of this variety, it's a pretty small bucket.
Okay.
And I'm convinced that our performance problems are not just JavaScript code related. So like, I think it's fine.
Okay. So you're saying this is an argument in favor of removing and reinserting.
Yeah. Or I think insert, if it sees that it already has the ID map, chooses to remove first. Like it looks at its ID map. So no logic in here, but like our quad tree should not accept the same ID without first replacing it. So like it.
Oh, okay. So you're saying the quad tree's interface is idempotent, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you should,
or not idempotent, because it's not like the side effects are the same. It's that it will not allow the same entity to exist twice.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel good about that.
Okay, yeah, that feels pretty good.
Okay. That raises a question, which is I think this interface currently does support an entity existing in multiple boxes.
It does, but that's not quite the problem. It's more that like one insert should be like it's that any set of nodes that an insert puts an entity into, that's like an atomic unit, and you shouldn't be able to like mix that. So if it's already in there, you should basically remove and then reinsert something like that.
Oh, and it's nice that our ID map is already a map.
Yeah, it's great. We can do .has. .has basically is like a containment check. Yep.
So let's just, I think that actually happens right here.
Yeah.
At the root of insert. So if this .id map is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's cool. Item.id. Then we actually do
this .remove.
Remove right there. And then reinsertion just happens.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that was my guess for the bug. Let's see if that actually did it. So I can shoot that. Hey, this game feels snappy and 60 FPS is what it feels. Oh, yeah. Shoot them walls. Jeff, look can you see how great my frames are?
It looks good. I don't know what changed. Is it Chrome?
I'm in Firefox.
Oh, you're in Firefox.
Oh, you know what it is? I'm 1,000 frames ahead of the server because I'm just predicting everything.
Oh, okay. Yes.
We shouldn't have actually imagined that our actual game was fast. This is fine though.
Okay.
But I can still shoot walls. It's still fine. Great. Yeah. Cool.
Well, but so here's the nice thing about this architecture, right? Now that we fixed these bugs, it's not breaking anything. What it means is that when we add more indexes, and those things might be like component maps, right? Mappings between entity IDs and components. All we have to do is update index and unindex. We don't have to worry about whether or not the contents of those indexes is in a particular weird state in any other piece of code, right? That's my hope. Whereas before, when we were doing like querying, we were like, oh, but like when we query, we got to look at the quad tree, but then we got to add the stuff that was predicted and remove the stuff that was like, like I didn't want to have to like mix prediction and indexing together.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And so querying still adds the stuff that's not in the spatial index, but like otherwise we're good.
Yeah, it still does that, but it's not doing anything with prediction here, right? Yeah. Which is, I think, the big concern that I wanted to check out.
I think this is great.
Yeah.
And I see no performance penalty from this. It's running just as 40 frames per second as it was before.
Yeah.
Oh man, I really shouldn't talk. Let's just get all these inspectors out of the way.
Yeah.
I did find that keeping the inspector open actually just like significantly harms performance for what it's worth.
Yeah.
No surprise.
I feel like at the top of last stream we were at 48 FPS. I guess we're kind of hovering around that, right?
It's about the same. Yeah, I don't think we're hurting, that's for sure.
Yeah. Gosh, I really don't know what it is that's hurting us. It's tricky.
Well, I mean, we've seen server main. Oops. This number is definitely like a pretty big one, I think. Let's wait for it to do your thing. Oops. Let's get rid of this other window.
Did the build break?
Nope. I just reloaded at the wrong point.
Oh, okay.
But this is 1 frame ahead of the server. We're just doing fine.
Yeah, it's probably like 10 FPS better, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it,
which is very significant.
It feels significant. What we've removed is this 15 frame resimulation.
Yeah.
But I also I believe we have like the processing power for this, but maybe not at the same time in the same thread.
Are you trying to? Are you proposing that we thread this?
I was going to suggest some web workers. Yeah.
Okay. Today.
That's. I mean, no time like the present.
All right, let's do it.
I'm going to add this. I'm gonna amend this. In fact.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm going to commit it. I added to this MR PR. I use GitLab at work, and they have merge requests, not pull requests, which I think is honestly a much more sensible name for the thing.
Yes.
But I realized that like now I have started talking differently than every other developer right now.
I guess the pull requests, they're thinking that you fork the repo and there's 2 different repos and you're pulling from one repo to the other.
Exactly, which I never do. No one does.
Yeah.
Inserts.
You're right. That's actually not mechanically what is happening in GitHub, right? GitHub is actually just creating a branch on. Well, are they creating a branch? When you do a PR, are they actually creating a separate branch on the home repo? They're not.
Wait, say that again. When you create a branch.
Sorry, if you do a PR from a fork into the parent, it's not creating a branch on the parent, right?
I don't think so.
Okay,
no, it's
so
not supposed to.
That is kind of a pull request.
It is, and like I get that open source is supposedly what it's for, but like, man, do any of us do that?
You're right to say that most people work off of origin, right? There's one central repo, and your branch definitely is on that central repo, and you're requesting to merge for sure. How is GitLab otherwise? Is it basically the same thing, or...
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in a lot of very, I feel like they're just constantly cribbing GitHub features.
Okay.
It's nice. It's fine. It's open source. They support ICE just as much as GitHub. So like, I don't really feel any moral superiority about it.
Do they have do they have actions?
Um, no, not really. Not really the same way GitHub does. They have a really nice CI interface built in.
Okay.
And we're running like our instance of it where we have the source code. So like we've like modified stuff.
When you say that they have like really nice CI, do they do the virtualization themselves? Like basically, can you pick like a Linux box to run stuff on, or like,
That's a good question.
or is it more like an API type thing where it?
Oh no, it's like they have like you give it a Docker file and it runs it for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Which
cool.
is like pretty close to an action. You can basically get all the same stuff out of that.
Yeah.
And tie together multiple Docker actions into a pipeline, which it covers all my needs at least.
Yeah.
All right. So if we want to do web workers, I need to get a quick refresher on. I know. Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be the key. Call work. All you need to do is call the worker constructor. Nonsense. So you know what? I want to go one further. Parcel web worker, because I don't know how our imports are going to work and if Parcel can even handle this nonsense. This will be a very short-lived experiment.
When you say a .js file there, how do you reference that on the web? Is it a remote? Is it a URL? Like what is? Oh, it is a URI. It is a URI. Okay.
Oh, okay. So
we just need a third entry point for Parcel because.
Okay. Right.
Or really two more entry points. One is client render. One is client. I guess it's like client main, which is like the renderer plus the thing that initiates the web worker. It's like the coordinator plus the render. And then, are you saying that the simulation is on the web worker?
That was my thought. Yeah, because we'll let the renderer gets the view thread, which is the browser with request animation frame. I don't think we could get that in the web worker.
Yeah. So main.tsx is still our client. That's what we called it, main.tsx.
Is this still the client? It is.
Should we call this like client main and then client simulation main or something like that? Or
I guess we'll have client main. It's weird because it loads a client object. I love this shit just hanging out here. Okay.
I think what's actually weird is that our client object now needs to do, maybe we need to split the client into two different things.
And this, yeah, we need to split the client, and then this is what goes in the web worker, which is the server connection and the simulation loop. So yeah, if I rename this to client render.
Yeah.
Thank you, main. Get out of here, systems. And if I rename this export, oh boy, that's everything, isn't it? Well, maybe I don't. This is the render is going to be easier to extract than this thing, actually.
Yeah. What does the renderer need?
Yeah, let's look at render itself. Render, yeah. Ignoring the time series, it needs a graphics context, the camera.
And the camera gets modified from game state, so like it needs communication from the simulation to get that.
Yeah, well, and specifically, it needs every entity, or it needs every entity's renderable.
Yeah.
But I would probably call that it just gets a list of entities and what? And then I guess, yeah, a lot of these.
Health bar, that's all player stuff.
Yeah, a lot of information about the player, probably. Oh yeah, it's taking the entity manager to render that. And our ability to send data back and forth is limited to messages.
Yeah, definitely not memory, because there's no synchronization primitive otherwise.
No, yeah. But we could basically treat this. We could treat this the same way we're treating checkpoint, essentially, where like our message to the worker is, here's an entity update for frame X, or like, here's the entities for frame X, Y, and Z.
Oh yeah, here's the entity that changed. And then, so I mean, we could tell the renderer changed entities, which includes new ones, and then deleted ones. What about terrain? Terrain doesn't change, so maybe the renderer knows about the terrain as well.
Yep, and the main client doesn't even need to know about terrain.
The client simulation doesn't need to know about it, basically. For now, because
it
has no gameplay effect.
Yeah. Yep. So terrain is just that, and it's interesting. There's this entity creation is happening, but maybe the simulation dumps all of this into the renderer to start.
Yeah.
And I wonder, especially with the latest changes you've made to the entity manager, I don't feel like this is really going to challenge us too much. Like, we can hand the renderer prediction. We can basically let the renderer continue to do exactly this. It just doesn't simulate anything. It just says, cool, I've got a predicted state for the next frame. Here it is. And when we tell it to revert, it reverts. So the entity manager keeps entity managing in both. Is that weird?
No, it's not. So let's say the code we're looking at right now is the simulation, the client simulations entity manager.
Okay.
Where do we send messages to the renderer?
I think at the end of our simulation loop,
okay,
which is basically, it's going to be our tick. With every tick, probably when we send a frame to the server, we will send a message to the renderer that's like, here's the entities for this frame. How does this handle prediction? So we're going to predict forward. The client, as a client, I'm going to see frame 100.
Maybe one way we could start is to serialize the entire entity, serialize everything. Although that's hard because we have to serialize the classes, and that's challenging.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to serialize classes no matter what, because like we have to send vector 2s to the renderer, right?
Yep. Those at least serialize nicely into two numbers, which I feel good about. The other ones are a little harder. But yeah.
We'd have to write a serialization routine for every data structure, though. It's just boy.
Yeah.
I want to do this, and yet I don't want to use JavaScript for it. Do you know what I mean?
All right, should we start over in Rust tonight? Or Lua, or like any
well, it's not. It's actually it's basically any dynamic language would fall afoul of this problem, because we can't do trivial, like memory trivial, like we can't do data structures that are represented in memory trivially as anything other than like heap allocated objects inside JavaScript, and that's a killer.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like we approached this with the transforms, even though it's got vec2s in it. But if we made that a number, we could probably still survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot to untangle for this sucker.
And like,
maybe I've suggested too much.
well, I guess my question is, have we exhausted the possibilities of other
I don't
optimizations?
I don't think so. So let's take another peek at that.
Okay.
Because I'm with you. This is actually quite a bit. Let's see. Last time, yeah, we wanted to get renderables and we added query by world pause, which is great.
Yep.
We're doing a lot less work there. Yeah, I'm curious about anything anything that's really doing. I feel like we're not caching enough stuff and probably are doing a lot of sort of anonymous functions into the same value over and over again.
Yeah. That whole get renderables, that push ... also probably sucks. It probably creates an array, destructures the array.
Yep.
And then adds it onto the array again. Like, we could easily just loop over the renderables and push them one by one, and that would probably save a little bit of time, right?
Yep.
Although since we're querying by world position, it can't be that many. Like, I bet that the size of get renderables.
Yeah, but we remember it's doing an extra 15 times per second, so, or 15 times per frame. So
no, I mean, get renderables is not. Get renderables is the renderer. That's a different loop, right?
Oh, great point. Yep. So in that case, yeah, maybe undo prediction. So what is happening in simulate then?
Yeah, I mean, you are saying that the fact that we're basically resimulating 15 times is not awesome, right?
And it's certainly like anything that's happening sort of needlessly in there will happen needlessly a lot. Yeah. Because yeah, I do feel like since we've scoped the renderables to the world view, we've chopped off a pretty good chunk of the map that's not being rendered here.
Yeah.
And that's really nice.
And also the terrain as well, right? We fixed the terrain rendering so that we're only rendering the tiles that are in frame, I believe.
We did, didn't we? Right, because that's actually did we do that or we did something different? I think it's just didn't even get rendered. It was already doing that.
Oh, it was already doing that. I see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the terrain, I think we just we pre-computed the renderable objects because they don't change.
That's right. Yeah, they're just always living in
And that like bought us nothing. It was so disappointing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So really I'm still eyeing sync server state. There's something, I mean, I just don't even know with JavaScript, but sometimes I feel like every anonymous function is like sometimes a time bomb or a ticking time bomb of like weird memory allocations.
Sorry, I knocked my antenna over.
Oh no. You watching over the air TV?
I have a Wi-Fi antenna on my PC. Which is actually how we're communicating with each other. We should be very grateful to this antenna.
I love that PCs have like all these antennas sticking out. Yeah, I have one of those too. Oh my gosh, I have a brand new iPhone.
What?
Yeah, I have a 12.
Did you have an 11?
I had an 11.
Are you a upgrade? Oh, you're on the program, aren't you?
I'm on the program. I just like I pay the same every 1 year that I'd pay every 2 years, or rather, I pay the same I'd pay over 2 years, no matter what. So I just upgrade every year and get a brand new phone.
Wait, tell me about this. What is the program?
So I pay the iPhone upgrade program is you pay in 1/24th installations of an iPhone price. and every 12
With
months,
no
Apple lets
interest on top?
with
No,
no
no, like
with no
funky.
interest.
Okay.
Yeah, and every 12 months, Apple lets you hand back the phone you've paid 12 of your 24 installments on, and they'll cut off whatever loan you're on and just give you a new one.
How does that work
It
for
works
them?
because they require you to have Apple Care, which adds like an extra like $3 a month.
Oh,
But I think they just make it up on that margin.
so that's the way they incentivize people to buy Apple Care? That's basically it?
You can't do this without buying Apple Care for sure. Yeah,
Because I always
but
buy Apple
other
Care anyways, and it's
so
always hundreds of dollars.
right. So the price of my phone is exactly if I bought an iPhone 12 Pro with Apple Care over 24 months, I'd be paying exactly that chunk of money
What
every
happens if
12.
you want to change your phone? Like, what if you wanted to go from an 11 Pro to a 12 mini?
My monthly payment, I could have done that. The monthly payment would have been smaller. It's
I see. Yeah.
they end you at 12 months of your 24 when you say I want a new phone, and your new loan is whatever the new
So
price would be
are they
for.
like, what are they doing with your old phone? Are they refurbing it
They,
and selling it
I think they
again?
refurb it and sell it. Yeah, because like Apple still sells iPhone 10Rs for $400.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm.
Wild.
Yeah. Also, like a lot of the parts of this are apparently recycled, so I don't know what they do. But
All right, so tell me about the 12 Pro. This is what we're going to do today. I
well,
want
I
your
was just gonna
review.
say it has an ostentatious antenna on the side that's like a plastic cutout so 5G can get through.
What? I'm going to look at this. Or bring it up on the web browser. Bring me up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotcha. I
Yeah.
gotcha. It's it's quite a pleasant phone. All right, too much web design.
I was actually looking at it and I wasn't sure if it was better than the 11 design wise.
Oh, it's much better than the 11 design wise, but
It's better, you think?
I never liked the weird curvy bullshit,
Okay, yeah.
and I always loved the like iPhone 4, like it's like a old like a camera design,
Yeah.
and this feels like that again, which is nice. Also, at least for me, the Pro got a bigger screen, but the body stays the same because they like, I don't know, did some math on the edges. But what I want to see is where's this antenna window? I feel like they might not even like show it because they're embarrassed.
Yeah. We might have to go to
Yeah,
the
iPhone
wild
12
internet. Yeah.
antenna window. Yeah, here you go. The mystery spot. This sucker. I can't zoom in Firefox. There's just like a spot here that's just like
Oh,
not
yeah.
metal, so more 5G can get it.
Is that
If
what
they
that
couldn't,
is? Because my iPad has that spot. And in fact, my iPad case
Mhm.
has a little notch exposing that spot. I'm like, why did you do that?
Oh, it might be. Yeah. Do you have an iPad with cellular?
No.
Well, then I don't know.
Maybe they just have that component there no matter what, right?
It's interesting because the iPad's iPad antenna window, because the iPad's still all metal, so like it can't it has to get the signal out through something. Is it this?
No, it's like a tiny it's that sort of like really long pill shape.
Huh.
Not super long, but it's like a long pill shape on the edge of my, and I thought it was like an access port or something like that. It's an iPad Pro.
Yeah, iPad Pro side view. We're gonna solve this
Yeah,
mystery.
yeah, it's the other side of that. It's the top.
The top. It's hard to tell all these side views. They all look like rectangles.
Yeah.
iPad Pro side view top. Well, it's a conspiracy because they don't want to show it on here either. So
Okay. So you've got a
yeah,
notch on the side of your phone. Yes.
it's a little notch. Yeah, it's no big deal. It's just funny. I didn't want
You know
5G. I
what?
think I
You know what it
already
must
I
be
already
on the
turned
on
it
my
off.
iPad. My iPad is where the SIM card goes. If you did have, because like I've got a little notch on the side of my phone as well, where the SIM
Mhm.
card goes. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, I've got that too. Yeah.
But you're
This
saying
is this
next to
is
that is yet another notch.
in addition to that. Yeah, there's another. This thing is just covered in notches and windows and little chunks of glass to let all the signal in and out.
Yeah. And then presumably it's easier to hold and better balanced, right?
I think so, but the roundy bits I found really slippery. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm gonna get my spouse an iPhone Mini. The Mini is way better for like normal human hands, I think.
Oh yeah, the 12 mini, I saw it and I felt this tinge of regret because I bought the 11 Pro early in the year
Mm.
in anticipation of going on like a very, very ambitious vacation
Oh, I'm
in
sorry.
December. I was going to take my mom to Antarctica. We were going to go to
Whoa.
friggin' the seventh continent, right? And um,
Damn, dude.
yeah. And I thought like having a nice camera would be good for that trip.
That
Well, we scrapped those plans, my friend.
sure seems reasonable, except for yeah, the COVIDs.
Yeah.
Well, damn. Oh, I don't know why I recorded this. It's not even talking to a server. That helps no one. Yeah, just wait till next year. There's an iPhone every year.
So, um, one of the things that I've been kind of hesitant to go down because I think it's just as big a change as going to web workers
Mm-hmm.
is that we are synchronizing inputs rather than synchronizing the result of simulation, which is raw state, right? Um, so there's basically two
Oh,
ends. There's two ends of the picture.
I know what
One
you're
is that you
saying.
send in. One is that you send input, run the simulation over that, and then you get the raw state that gets rendered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we send input because we can do it deterministically, right? We can basically do everything very, very precisely. The issue that we're running into, though, is that because we require that precision, we have to resimulate a lot when the server sends data over, right? So the server
Mm-hmm.
sends a very, very small amount of data every single frame
Mm-hmm.
that the client will simulate, right? Uh, what we could do instead is intermittently send diffs from the server of the state,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I recall us talking about this a little bit,
yeah,
so that in fact we're just sort of like we're slamming in the new data from the server and really on our side too, instead of storing inputs, we're storing deltas of objects and applying them on top of the server update. Is that correct?
well, we're applying deltas if we have the authority. Like we still want it to be deterministic,
Mm-hmm.
but it's much more brute force because what you're saying is if there's any drift at all, well, you're allowing it to drift and then sort of like forcing it back into what the server says is correct. Um, and it also lets you simulate the server at a lower frame rate as well. You can just say
Mm.
like, well, I got all these inputs. I'm gonna simulate at like once every 100 milliseconds or something like that. And the reason why we don't do that is we need every single tick, whether it's on the server or the client, to be exactly the same delta time because we need all of the floating point calculation to line up and be exactly the same. And this whole model that we're doing is like very, very clean and very, very precise. The only problem is it requires a lot of rework because we have to recompute the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what what do you think the first step down that path would be? Would it be to have the server start sending diffs instead of inputs?
Um,
And it's interesting because I feel like we also want inputs so we can do input prediction, but maybe that's not how we do simulation necessarily. It's just for us to.
Right. So how would this be an improvement? Because we still need to do reconciliation, right?
Still need to do. Mhm.
Right. We need, because we're going to get an image of the world that's behind the client, and we still need to reconcile all the inputs. So we still have to resimulate anyways, right? So like I feel like maybe this doesn't necessarily help us all that much, right?
Yeah, it's just that this is committed frame one. Oh, it's local message history. And what's going on here is that we have 15 frames of client messages, and really we only have 15 frames of like of our client. Ah, fuck. It's
And
hard
you're
to reason
basically
about.
saying, could we simulate fewer entities or something like that? Or
Yeah, I was like, if we know, like, holding down the up key for 15 frames,
can only modify the local entity, right?
right? Like, this should actually be reapplicable to the player, even if something shot me and knocked me to the left. Like, I'd still reapply myself just over here, and that actually would be exactly the same
Well,
outcome as we have today, right?
maybe, but if it knocks you to the left and there's a wall over the left, then you would hit the
Mm-hmm.
wall, and you need to account for that, right?
Right. So if it's like here, gotta do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe whether we're sending inputs back and forth or we're sending raw state, I don't think it gets us out of the woods to have to like. It doesn't save us from having to resimulate input on top of it.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a heuristic where we can figure out that certain things don't need to get resimulated.
That's yeah. So stepping into simulate right now, this is the
Resimulating
game
the
that
whole world. Yeah.
yeah, and it gets run for server. It gets run in sync server state. Oh, I got too many files. Um, to actually apply the state, which I think is like correct simulate. Like this should be the simulation officially stepping forward a tick.
Yeah. So I guess sending raw state over would save us because we wouldn't have to do this. Like if we sent raw state from the server or diffs, we would just apply the diffs to the last known good snapshot, right?
Yeah, yeah. Though we kind of know when we reduce our frames ahead of server to just one, we do see that like we can handle doing this. I
Yeah.
think.
And this
And
is only once per tick, right?
it's once per tick.
It's in a loop,
Well,
but I don't think that the server like ever right. Like if we look at like this is in a loop, isn't that for each? But
mhm.
realistically, it's running once, right?
Yeah, and I think our sort of network diagram is not even fully fleshed out because we get one of these from the server every frame
Yeah.
for every frame just 15 seconds behind. But in fact, I would only expect one of these every 15 frames or so as well, depending on like lag. So and maybe that's actually the real part of it is that in the real world, we should get 20 server frame updates at once that we have
Uh,
to process.
I don't. I mean, I think we could model it that way, but right now, I
Okay.
I think assuming constant latency, unless you're in a death spiral, you're
Mm,
still gonna get one server message per frame because it's sending it once per frame. It's just lagged by however long the half ping is, right?
oh, yeah. Okay. And I guess since we have WebSockets, yeah, we actually know it's happening because we're just watching frames ahead of server, and that is the count of
Because if the
how.
gap between the server communication frames is getting bigger, you're never gonna catch up, right? You're gonna
It's too
that
late.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then, yeah. So basically, we're operating on a world of like one of these, maybe two in a very strange world.
Yeah.
And I think that where's our update? I think that this simulate. Uh,
The current frame simulation.
yeah, I think this is also a valid simulate because this is how we're going to derive like
The
the
latest
next.
frame of input. Yes.
Yeah, but I'd love to figure out how to undo this loop, or have a smaller simulation loop. Yeah. And I noticed just running this, but like transform init is hanging out at 7% of our time, which seems kind of silly. But I do see.
Wait, parser require transform init? Yeah, that's crazy.
It is, but it's also transform init. I mean,
is there like a production bundling that we're just ignoring completely? Like, why is even calling require?
Oh, that's a good question.
Shouldn't this just be all in scope? You know what I mean?
I kind of assumed that parcel require was just something that got dropped onto this namespace, but that's a good question.
Oh, what you're saying is that it's just the function name is just called parcel require.
I think it's just the function name that, yeah, parcel has done to this, because I just see a lot of our systems taking up time here.
Yeah.
And like, I guess this is one where we actually do a vec2.equals on every entity. Wait, why do we do this? What the hell is this even doing?
We're basically saying if it's moved, we have to checkpoint it.
If it's moved, we have to checkpoint it.
Although this is a little bit redundant. Well, yeah. Is this right? We should have checkpointed at the previous frame when we modified its current position.
And the current position should have set the previous position.
Yeah, the checkpoint, I think line 12 is a cover your ass.
Mm-hmm. It checkpoints every entity that moved last frame for one more frame. Right?
Yeah, could that be incorrect?
Well, I'm pretty sure. I think we did this because we were having a weird situation.
We have to do it because we're modifying the previous position. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Well, I was going to say this certainly feels like a thing that is sort of a different simulation loop, though, where it's like it'd be nice to keep track of entities that have been dirtied.
I mean, we kind of are, right? Like line 11 is that.
Yep.
The only improvement that we could do over that is if we stuck updated entities into a list somewhere and iterated over that list.
So if we're in simulation and something has moved, have we already checkpointed it?
We've checkpointed it but we've checkpointed it when
it's not updating the previous position, whatever we do. Yeah. Huh.
But you're right to say that we've already checkpointed it because
this couldn't be true otherwise. Or the not part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, theoretically it couldn't be true unless we have a bug. So I actually agree with you that checkpoint is not... Because, like, the attack... What is the bullet? There's the bullet system. Can you open the bullet system real quick? Yeah, are we checkpointing there? We are. Mm-hmm. And then the tank mover is checkpointing as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so that checkpoint in the transform init system is superfluous because it's happening before the previous position is modified. So it's not like it's going to snapshot anything, right? Now, I don't think that's going to save us very much, but we might as well just...
Yeah. More I was just thinking of, like, anytime we have to loop over the entire...
Oh, hey, I learned a cool trick for that. You can just delete that. Just have a comma.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
It's weird.
That's very weird.
That wouldn't be my preference, but that's what TypeScript wants. That's what the linter wants.
That's very weird. I guess I guess the thing I'm throwing out is that I feel most strongly about, oops, I wanted to do dot length. What does a map have?
Size.
Size? There we go. I guess I'm curious about how many entities we suddenly loop over every frame. This is still compiling because I logged the entity manager a second ago. There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know, 446 times 15. It's just 7,000 iterations.
So the other thing we could do is when you modify a transform, you stick the entity ID into a list of modified transforms that the transform init system iterates over. And that would be a significantly smaller number of things. The challenge there is just like checkpointing, you need to basically like add it into a list. You need to be very explicit about adding it to a list somewhere.
Right. And as soon as you're kind of just, well, is it that, or do we just look at previously checkpointed?
We could definitely do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I do that, it's not a map? Oh, it's private. I'm just curious to see what that does anyway.
The other thing is that I don't want to mix prediction stuff with.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm trying to think here, because the checkpoint gets cleared. That's what I worry about a little bit.
Well, I don't know if you can see it suddenly jumping around, but this is the problem.
I can't see the problem.
Oh, it's probably because it looked like lag to you, but the tank is actually just like jumping position incorrectly all over the place.
Because we got rid of the checkpoint?
Because something, well, I guess, yeah, checkpoint entities is always link 0 here, so something's definitely not happening.
Oh, I see.
It's not because we have the checkpoints, because I tried to run this on a smaller set. It probably fails for when I update like the latest simulation frame or something. Come on. This is fine now without the checkpoint. The checkpoint was unnecessary. But yeah, it's tough because I don't see a simple way to reduce the scope of this loop. And I guess we haven't reintroduced all the systems in the game yet, but anything that like requires this pattern is maybe potentially gonna hurt us.
Yeah. I mean, one other thing we could do is, well, I don't know how to do this with multiplayer. But I was going to say is that most games don't have this many entities on screen, and they basically just forget about everything that's off screen.
Oh, interesting. Again, I guess, right. We're certainly not querying into the camera space here, but we could. No, we can't. Not for everything.
Because this, like, again, multiplayer makes this complicated, right? Because the server needs to...
Well, that's a case for the server sending authoritative state about an entity versus a stream of inputs, because if we ever got it wrong, or like anything off screen, we would just know where it was versus trying to
because the server told us where it was.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like that at the very least, because I do like... I like scoping to what we can see and just everything else just happening off screen, especially because like our bullets do not shoot off screen. Like we see the effects of what we do. I feel like we might have to deal with like a constrained viewport at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually kind of like purposely running this in a 500 by 500 responsive window just to.
The other
sort of
thing we could do that maybe just punts is we could have a movable flag that's an entity property, and then the transform init system only iterates over the movables.
Oh, yeah, dude, that seems pretty reasonable. That at least covers this sucker.
Okay.
And probably a bunch of future movable stuff too. So why not?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know, we're optimizing out 7%. Is that worthwhile? I don't know.
7% is pretty good.
7%, it's pretty good actually. Yeah, I'm with you. And really maybe once we sort of get the pattern down, it will just be how it works. Well, let's treat this the same way you treated stuff in the entity manager. So we're going to say that, where is our register?
It has to be a property on the entity too, because the entity is what was snapshot. So
it has to be a property on the end. Does it have to be a property on the end? Because if it's part of the, wait, sorry, let me think about
that. The reason why is that the entity is the object of snapshot. It's like we're currently using the entity to snapshot. We might have a separate thing that represents a snapshot later, but the entity is still useful in that it tells you what indexes to write into when you index it, right?
Okay.
But you're right to say though that like I think lines, we should just have like movables, which is a set of entity IDs. And then we actually add a movable flag onto the entity.
Yep. So you don't have to type these, huh? I guess it just figures it out.
Yeah, it just figures it out.
It's because TypeScript's not real.
Yeah.
Right, and then we're going to say in registration
or in indexing.
In indexing, yeah. If e.movable,
which doesn't exist yet. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. This dot movables dot add e.id.
And then the same thing with unindex, we remove it.
This dot movables dot delete id remove. Nope, delete. Cool. And this is just like a bunch of no ops. If it's not there, That's really cool. I love it. Okay, so in entity,
set another flag.
Yeah, I was trying to think if we could like section this off in a way that. No, it's fine. I'm just gonna put that flag. It's a Boolean, and the default is movable false. And we'll sort this. Cool.
And then,
so this is dot movables.
And then you're iterating over IDs purely, so it's not an array on line 6. It's just the entity ID.
Fair.
There's no array even. Yeah.
Yep. Entity equals state.
I think we just need a transform at this point, right? So you can do entities dot get. It's a map now, so it's dot get. ID exclamation point dot transform, something like that.
Right, and then this is actually just transform.
Yeah.
Oops. There we go. Okay.
And then we need to mark bullets and the player as movable, I think. Yeah.
Movable equals true. And our bullet, yep. This doesn't even have any flags on it.
So the thing to test here is our collision, because the collision is what relies on that previous position stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's at least. I see one problem. Okay. What do you think is happening, console? That's not good.
Do we use previous position anywhere else? That could be the problem.
Mm-hmm. Previous position.
Just the wall collider, huh?
It's only in the wall collider, yeah. I'm just gonna toss out a quick, like, I don't know. Oh, you know what, actually, is this a fresh build? No, we hit player count. I don't know, let's just make sure that we're even seeing the IDs. There should only be 2 for our 2 players run every frame, so this should be a really obvious log.
I don't see how this should have broken anything. It would break collision.
Oh man, this. Yeah, it would have broken only collision, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay. Nothing's paused. It's weird to me that I also have no input or anything going on here. It's like as soon as I moved. Okay.
Wait, what the hell?
As soon as when I fire a bullet, it stops. So let's maybe let's look at make bullet, which is totally, it's clearly movable. It's true, is right there. Why are there no exceptions or anything, or?
Yeah, and it looks like it's still updating, right? Your RFPS is still.
Yeah, and it's really happy because there's no input coming in, so it's just like chugging along. Maybe just give Chrome a quick thing. Maybe that'll crash differently.
Yeah, you have to restart the server as well. So save a file or something.
Oh yeah, I kicked it. But Bullet is doing it. So maybe there's something in the shooter system. We get the player. We checkpoint the player. Oh, because we're modifying the shooter object. Yep. Oh, dude, this is gonna be great because we're gonna be checkpointing like the shooter thing instead of the entire player object. I'm very excited to break up entities like this.
The shooter has an orientation, so it needs to get checkpointed as well, right? But the shooter also moves, doesn't it?
Here you go. Cannot read property transform undefined.
Okay.
In transform init. Interesting.
That's weird. That means that we have an ID in movables that is not in entities, which should never happen based on the way that we're indexing, right?
Yeah, I agree. That should have been a challenge. I want to look at the entity manager again. Let's just refresh you. You're eating the CPU. And we put the entity into the entities list first before messing with movables. And we remove it from movables after. Is there actually I mean, there's no reason that.
There's no concurrency, right?
Or yeah, there's no reason that that needs to be in any order, or we could potentially ask for something out of order. So,
yeah. Or there's no parallelism, rather. So all of this code is running like one function at a time.
Mm-hmm. And so far, it's only seeing the players, but as soon as... Oh, well, the server's restarted. Thanks. So helpful. As soon as I shoot,
As soon as you introduce a bullet, we basically
Yeah,
get an undefined.
we see entity 446 come in and immediately stop. Yeah. And interestingly, the client has stopped and the server should kind of just, I think the server is idling, waiting for more messages.
That's really weird. I would have thought the server would encounter the same crash. Maybe it's because the client hasn't even had the chance to send the input over to the server. It's just crashing during prediction, right?
It's crashing during prediction. Ah, interesting. So we've indexed the shooter registers bullets. It doesn't index them.
Registration should index, right?
Oh man, okay. Yeah, you're right. And it's in predicted registrations. Is it an undo prediction shouldn't run until we get to the next server frame. Yeah. Huh.
Our entity IDs are constant, right? So is it entity ID 9 and entity ID 11?
Those are always players 1 and 2, yeah.
And then 446 is the bullet that we just introduced.
Yep. And I think it's consistently the bullet we introduced too.
We're in Chrome right now?
Dude, I just fired a bullet and it worked. Come on. What happened?
Wait, what?
Oh man, I don't know.
Maybe this is a parcel thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take this log out and restart everything.
Try doing a clean as well.
Okay, yeah, is there a yarn clean?
Yeah.
Yarn clean, yarn dev.
I'm gonna be really upset if it's...
No, it just means that we were smarter than the computer because we were correct.
Yeah.
And maybe the program should have.
Because all you did was change the order of some of those lines, right? That's like...
And I changed them back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it shouldn't have mattered. Weird. Well, I like this. I think this is a great pattern, and we're going to keep using it.
That's the future, yeah.
Yeah. Will our current linter let us one-line this? I'm not going to hit save again because I'd like to see this run. Run, damn you. You're so close. Yeah. Okay. Oh, shit. That's actually like significantly faster.
It is.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly, that's not great. But specifically,
what's not great?
All right, here, let me let it get back up to speed real quick.
Oh, I see. Just shooting was always taking our frame rate down, though, right?
So shooting is better though, because we've gone. It could be better.
Is it the repeated particle emitters that's screwing us? I feel like
I was going to say, when I aim at a tree, the frame rate gets real bad. So there's a couple of things happening here, which is that we are probably like repeatedly like indexing and unindexing the tree objects, or the tree is maybe having a bunch of churn as it's like added and removed in prediction.
Yeah.
But also the repeated particle emitters sure don't look good, and I think are part of the problem. But dude, look, it's just like running at 60 frames per second.
Yeah. That's
I'm gonna just git stash this real quick because I switched browsers. But also I think actually that was a good upgrade.
I would not have guessed that like a loop over 446 objects. I guess if you multiply by 15, then we're talking about like...
Well, and that's sort of been our observed performance pattern so far, is that like everything, it's like the rubber band between the client and the server is like the thing that determines how rough our performance is.
Yeah.
Well, this is the changes stashed. So Chrome's just a better browser than Firefox.
It's faster, yeah.
let's go. Man, I'm tired of fighting browsers. Let's go to Firefox. I'm gonna do some measurement. Well, no, not gonna do some measurement because that slows it down even more.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing we could do to really confirm is do a clean build.
Another clean build.
Yeah.
It's just unhappy. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is master without the changes on it. So
it's pretty slow.
it's pretty slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to yarn clean and get stash pop. That was like 40/40. And yarn dev. It just better be faster.
How many other systems are iterating over every single entity?
So we've reduced that quite a bit.
It would be in simulate, right?
Yeah. So the transform init was
the bullet system.
Mover. Yeah, tank mover is pretty focused on players. The shooter system.
Oh, this is the worst. That little pop. I feel like that's new. That VS Code thing. That like.
And you know what? I got rid of it on.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, there's a enable preview. It's quick preview. Crap!
Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I was just whining. I think that's the
it.
definition of what I was doing was whining.
Yeah. Well, that's okay because no, I fixed it on my work computer and I'm sad to see it back here. That's all. Do you do VS Code settings sync? Because I really need to set that up because like I'm tired of fixing problems in like one environment and realizing like VS Code has gone somewhere else in the other.
Maybe I should be doing that. I have my dot files synchronized, but I don't synchronize VS Code settings yet.
All right, here we go. No, it's exactly the same.
Okay. I do notice a TypeScript error.
Yeah.
What's the problems one there? In the panel below.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Movables. I think it's just that actually entity manager
is.
Why did it take me there? What? Get out of here. Oh, I see. It's taking me to some state. Entity manager, please. I think it's just that actually TypeScript.
Oh, it hasn't indexed the file.
Yeah.
Speaking of indexing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so our bullet system. There you go. You want to do this one too? Let's do it.
Yeah, we can just have a bullets collection, right? This is what the future looks like. It's a map
you know what?
Yeah.
No, especially since we were kind of just like, I felt like I burned a bunch of time on a couple of different dalliances. Oh, this is a map. Okay. Yes.
Well, it doesn't have to be a map. Well,
let's look at make bullet.
Oh, you know what it is? The bullets is a set. It's for as long as we have that entities list, this should just be a set. And we'll always look up the entity inside.
Okay.
Because there's no bullet component, right?
There is a bullet component, but it's a pretty dumb one that's not ever checkpointed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And we wouldn't really look at this, so yeah. Hell yeah.
Bullet plural, maybe.
Yes, bullets. Stop bullets, and then in index, if e dot bullet.
Yeah.
This dot bullets dot add e dot id. I'm taking it. surely you can format this. Fine.
I think it's just being slow. I think it's going to force it onto multiple lines, which is a change I can live with. Yeah.
It wants to, but it definitely just gave up on formatting my files. There we go. All right. I really want Ruby post conditionals for that. But
oh, yeah.
It is not to be. So I'm gonna these are like component indexes. Indices? These are actually indexes, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're not component maps yet, although eventually they probably will store data. So like bullets will actually store the bullet component on it.
Yep.
And that's the only place it'll exist. It won't be in. There's no this.entities anymore, or there could be. Right. I don't know. Like we why don't we evolve there?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah,
it's interesting because like right, if I'm a bullet component, you still need to go look up the transform, but at least this bullet knows what its range is. Yeah, I think that's actually cool.
So now the bullet system can just iterate over the bullets, right?
And right, this is actually just an ID.
Yeah.
We no longer do this. We are checkpointing that, so I think I actually need the entire entity.
Just the ID. You need the transform below.
And the bullet object itself.
Okay,
so yeah. SimState.entityManager.entities of ID.
Get.
Does this need a bang? Just cool. And it needs a bang because that's a potential undefined.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this is just E to keep this code together. Cool. E.bullet.
That needs to be E bullet exclamation point because we don't have the component right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel good about that. Boy, that'll make this type checking a lot nicer too, because our types will actually be like, we'll be going into the component index to get the bullet, and we're going to look up the transform, and that'll be that.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so they just become database tables, right? Like the bullets it's like the database table of bullets. Yeah.
That's delightful. Okay, so this has once again removed a loop over the entire entity set.
That's faster. That's faster.
Firefox got faster.
Yeah. It's so hard to know. It feels pretty unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
No, but hanging out at 50 was actually a vast improvement.
Yeah.
It's back to 40, but it started faster.
So the thing that you were talking about before of like unindexing and reindexing is still happening. Like it's an inconvenient truth that we do the collision detection to destroy the tree, unindex the tree, and then reindex the tree basically 15 times, right? We do that repeatedly because we'll continue to do it as between the moment that we predict doing it and the moment that the server realizes that it's happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. Oh, here. Here's another one.
And that's for damagers.
Yeah, so that's actually. This could be bullets right now.
Or we could have damagers with a list of damagers.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, going back to what you're saying about just the inconvenient truth of this happening, like these two things just happening back and forth a lot for destruction, and like bullets as they fly up the screen, like.
So here's an optimization that we could make. It's not going to be super relevant. It's a hack. It's a cheat. But we could say if the server client frames from 15 frames ago is equal to what we have in our input buffer from 15 frames ago,
Then you're good.
then you're good, right?
But that makes single player work.
It works as long for any frame that both players are not, or any player in the game is not pressing a button. It works, right?
Mm-hmm. Does that help us?
No, it's almost never, right? Like if you think about
Yeah.
playing games, like you're just constantly
Yeah.
hitting buttons, right?
We could make that game. It'd be a different game.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
The problem is that it's just so hard to know what you shouldn't resimulate because any particular action could have many, many different side effects, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, with state synchronization, though, you can take some liberties and eventually you will catch up to the server because the server will basically say, well, if you got it wrong, too bad, because this is what it actually looks like, right?
Yeah, and I wonder if that's sort of the. I just wonder if that lets us be looser with what we're simulating. At least lets us do stuff like off screen and just drop it completely. But
Yeah.
that doesn't yet feel like the problem, you know?
Yeah, because we're taking care of a lot of the off-screen stuff, right? Like we're kind of dealing with it now with
Well, and
this.
there's like nothing even happening off screen, and
Yeah.
it's still just like falling apart on us. So
Yeah.
I wonder if there's anything we can do specifically around this, like sorry, not around that, around resimulation. Can we turn off like any checks? Is there like some unindexing that doesn't need to happen, or like can we just be like, hang on, just like run for 15 frames and then like tell me what changed? Like we don't need to checkpoint anything. We just need to grab every ID at the end and be like, if you change, stick your ID in an array. We'll come back to you later. Don't worry about it. But like we sort of know that there's this bucket of like every simulation frame actually doesn't need to do some cleanup, doesn't need to be quite as, I don't know.
But it does, right?
It does. Yeah.
Because that cleanup is relevant to each sub. It could be relevant to each subsequent simulation, right?
Well, and we can't toss out our actual snapshot either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It sucks.
A little bit. Boy, I do like adding this stuff by index. This is nothing.
Yeah, it's the way that it should work. So
Yep. Yeah, this is already ID, and this is, yeah, this alone at least makes everything feel a lot cleaner. We should have done this a while ago.
yeah.
Get ID.
Yep.
Ooh, did I make a string? No.
Of this is gonna like kill you for an hour, but it's of and not in.
Oh man,
It'll kill you for an hour because it killed me for 2 hours.
Oh, that's brutal. Because ID in is
The keys. Iterates over keys.
Of a set, which are somehow strings, because keys are always strings.
I don't know what it means. I think like if you iterate over the keys of a set, I don't freaking know what it is.
Okay, fair enough.
It's so funny how it takes the FPS a while to recover. Is it the size of this? It is also the size of the browser window that's affecting this, right? Maybe that's
potentially so.
that's
Yeah,
part of the reason why
I can put us
Firefox
back in
seems slower.
I think the responsive mode doesn't even show up in the. It sure doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
My damagers no longer hit anything. What did I do? If it's a damager, it goes in damagers.
Can you do a git diff?
Yeah, I can do a git diff. Entity manager, I think that's fine. Removable is the new flag. Here's probably the relevant thing.
I mean, that looks pretty friggin' good to me.
Right, yeah.
Damager is an entity, right? The old code, even it's not the damager component, right?
Right, yeah, because it goes into d.damager. So let's make this e. But yeah, strange that that's not happy about this.
That is very strange, and probably walls are not. Whoa, what happened? Probably you can't shoot walls either, right? Wait, what the?
Man, you know what? There's no explaining it. But hey, that works great.
Okay.
Also, clipping along.
Yeah, it's getting a little faster.
I'm still running with the server, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this is a vast improvement.
Okay.
Wait. Get stash. Yarn dev. I'm not so worried about clean, but actually I just want to make sure that it's not the tiny window.
Yeah.
I keep giving myself hope.
Yeah. We're changing a lot of variables here.
We're changing a lot of variables, but also like we've removed quite a bit of iteration from this sucker.
Yeah.
Which like all things considered is still always a positive.
I am curious about how much the language is holding us back right now, or the runtime specifically. But if we rewrite it in a different language, it's just like another mountain that we're giving ourselves to climb. It's like we haven't even climbed the mountain of multiplayer yet, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we got to climb this mountain.
And I think we're gonna hit the same fundamental question about like input synchronization versus like sending state diffs. We're gonna write the same chunk of like messy optimization for like not simulating every entity. I think on every platform, maybe
we are.
Like that's gonna keep happening.
But what I wonder though is JavaScript ever going to be good enough to play a game, right?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's way slower.
Yeah. It is the case that I think graphically, if you told me that a 3D simulation would be faster, I wouldn't be 100% surprised.
3D simulation.
Or 3D rendering, at least, would be faster. Because I have no idea how fast the 2D rendering engine is in JavaScript. But
yeah, it's a great point. It's way more playable.
It's faster, right? Yeah.
Dramatically faster.
Yeah.
We removed
a ton of iteration.
3 loops over the entire entity list, which is not even just on screen stuff, but like everything.
Yeah.
Cool.
And happening 15 times, right?
Happening 15 times, yeah. So, and we only made it down to the attack system.
Yeah.
Playfield, I mean, like every one of these.
Yeah. Playfield clampable, something like playfield clampings.
I was going to do movables.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because
it's an ID. Yeah.
It is, but at the same time, like bullets don't. So it is playfield clampables, isn't
it? You're right that the bullets probably don't clamp, right?
Yeah, because we've got a flag for this, in fact. Cool. Nope, it's everything. But like, here's one more loop. So this makes me feel like we're not losing our minds.
Okay.
Wondering why it's so slow.
We lost our minds a while ago, right?
I think we had, yeah, but playfield clamped.
Clams. Eat some clams.
Get some clams. This ain't no Boston. Clamped, and then
I didn't even realize I was doing a Boston thing, but I think I was.
You were absolutely doing a Boston thing.
Chowda, say it.
Is that from Clone High?
It's from The Simpsons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor Quimby and the actual character of JFK on Clone High are definitely interchangeable.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
All right. So playfield clamped. IDO, none of this nonsense, and then const equals state dot manager. I kind of want to have entity manager.get at some point.
Yeah, eventually. You'll notice there's a, because like we might not have an entities list at all. Like eventually we might just be like getting each component by the entity ID, right?
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, we don't checkpoint this because I think we assume that transform init checkpoints it, but you know what? Moving checkpoints it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
Probably
you can't
that was
get
just
here.
an oversight. We should probably checkpoint, but.
Well, we commented out specifically, I think, because we realized that if you've moved, if an entity is moving up, it's checkpointed.
Yeah.
Fair. But we don't want to checkpoint. We don't want to checkpoint every playfield claimable every time.
I concur. Yeah.
All right. What surprise is hiding for us in the damageable system? I wonder. The same thing. All right. This isn't even a surprise anymore.
Hey, this is why you add indexes to your database tables. Exactly.
Yeah, dude. Right. Yeah, dude. I'm into it. Damageables equals. Yeah, just call me Postgres 9.2 today because I'm indexing the heck out of this.
Postgres 69. That's what you are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I like that I don't even have to like look at this code. I'm just like, is it a damageable?
Right.
Yeah, really the only like movable was the only new addition here, but everything else has been super straightforward.
Movable is going to bite us in the ass in the future. Mark my words.
You think so?
I think it will because nothing else depends on it except the transform init system. Like there's nothing that is preventing us from modifying a transform if the movable flag isn't set. It's fine. I'm not saying that we should solve that. I'm saying that it's going to bite us in the ass. But being bitten in the ass is not the worst thing in the world.
It won't be the first time it's happened in this game. This is... you know what? I'm not going to change too much in this class right now. Is there anything else loop over all the entities? Oh, I know what I can do. Of entities. Not anymore.
What about in entities? Do we do anything silly like that? In space entities?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sure we have some of this or this. Yeah, but none of these exist yet.
What if we do in space and then do a regex of, I guess it's anything that is not a space. So I guess it's just \s at capital S rather, capital S plus, and then entities. Let's see what that happens. Yeah, I think that's nothing. If I got my regex right, does that look right to you?
I think you're correct.
Right.
I mean, really, I could just do. Even that, yeah, with that space in there is nothing. So
yeah, okay.
So just chugging along here at a very nice FPS. Yeah, shooting and blowing up a bunch of stuff is not killing us.
Yeah, shooting now is at 48, which is what we started the stream at normal, right?
Dude, it was even 40.
Okay, yeah.
It was not a good time. So now it is a good time.
It is.
Well,
what's funny though is we're not doing that much in the game. There's not a lot of gameplay right now, and as soon as we start adding gameplay, the stuff that we're going to be iterating over is gonna start to look a little bit gnarly.
And here's our initial. It is really weird that it like creeps up as we go. But let me just start firing off some rounds here to really chug us into Chugtown.
It's not chugging. I feel like we're gonna have to do like
For
a clean build in between to get like a reliable.
Oh, I was gonna say this is. I mean, it's 10 frames. 10 frames faster. But I'm down for the clean build. I think that what we did is removed
A bunch of redundant iteration.
Yeah,
Yes.
what's 446 times 15 times like 5? Like you remove 30,000 loops
Yeah,
per
it's a lot.
per frame. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, dude, I can only say just the experience of running this is so much better right now.
It looks really good. And then if we get rid
Yeah.
of the redundant particle emitters, I bet that will do a lot as well.
Yeah, because actually that's each one of those is simulating a bunch of particles.
Yes.
Like they're actually doing a little bit of computation and like much more than is
Yes.
necessary. So yeah. Yep.
It's a lot of particles.
This is great.
Hey man. I think we're kind of like, oh man, are we gonna have to refactor this horrible thing? Are we gonna have to put this in a different thread? Those are all coming, but not today, sir.
Not today. Index the database.
Not today, Satan. Satan being multi-threading and parallelism.
Yeah, but maybe soon. That was very positive. I'm gonna run the profile on this just to end us off.
Okay, yeah.
See how we did. Oops. I'm gonna get a fresh. You know what? I'm even gonna give you a clean.
I love your setup right now. You've got like multiple panes in console in VS Code. All of that is running inside of a browser. Like both of those things are web browsers. It's just crazy.
I know, and it's faster than our game too.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. It's time to bring back the snap cam.
Can you are you gonna put on sombrero? Is this what's
Oh no, I was gonna go full America on us.
Okay.
There could be a sombrero filter in there, but that seems insensitive.
Okay, yeah.
But
this is Memorial Day? Oh
not
yeah.
This. Oh wait a minute. No, I've got a virtual background on my virtual background. Hang on. You can't do that to me.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is total Top Gun, right?
Yeah. Go vote. This is so horribly patriotic. No, it's okay. We're just gonna hang out with the cat on the head.
Okay, yeah.
Much better.
Yeah.
I was going to run the profiler. Okay, profiler. I can still play the game while it's profiling. This is literally unbelievable to me.
It's a profiler made in America. There's an American profiler. Actually, it probably was made in America.
It probably was.
By folks in Mountain View.
Where is... Hey, look at Transform It down here at 0.15% of the time spent.
Dang, son.
I did it.
2 orders of magnitude.
Still pretty
What
heavy,
up?
Actually. You know, for the first time, I feel like this actually helped us. This is expensive.
Shit.
Well, some of it's in the wall collider. It's okay. Well, I think it's the wall collider is actually the expensive query, which like it might be. Dude, this is great. Look how performant our shit is.
Lightning fast.
Lightning fast.
You can't even see it. It's just...
I mean, our idle time actually went up quite a bit, which is, to me, a big positive.
Yeah, that's weird. 25% of the time is idling, and yet our frame rate's still so bad. Does that mean there's a lot of variance? What does that mean?
There's a lot of variance. It means maybe we're getting scheduled inconsistently, or I don't know. Yeah, you got me there. I'm curious why damageable is actually still taking 7% of this time too. I'm gonna give it one more look in the system to see. Damageables, get the entity. Oh, I forgot all about drops. Goodness. You know what it is? I bet actually this is the 7% of damageable that's causing us a problem.
Registering the particle emitter?
Well, if it registers one particle emitter per thing, I guess that doesn't.
The registration should be pretty fast, right?
Yeah, none of the computations here, so maybe not. Yeah, unless we're doing some math or constructor stuff here. Not really. Okay. I lied. Well, nice work.
Yep. Call it a day.
Call it a day.
One nice optimization session in the bag.
Yeah.
Bring the next one on. Oh my God. What is that?
Pretty good, right?
What is this? Is just the Halloween thing? What do they call it?
Snapcam. I'm in Snapcam. I'm doing the filters on everything. Look, man, I could be a watermelon. If you need me to be a watermelon. Are we in a talking heads mode? Because this is actually really delightful.
We can go to talking heads mode. All right, we'll go to talking heads mode. Yes. So now you're like Eraserhead now. That's basically what you look like.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah. Yeah, bring in your horrible child, like a weird like turkey.
I'm just gonna stick to
that's
bog standard creepy filter, much better than
that I would say, while not equivalent to a full 60 FPS simulation, is a marked improvement. Which is also true of today's stream.
Look at this 6 Zagreus eye, man. This filter knows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does know. I think it is Zagreus's right eye that is discolored, or it's got the Hades red.
One of them, yeah.
How many times have you cleared that game now?
I am on. Oops, I quit the camera. Oh no, I'm yellow. I've cleared it 4 times.
That makes 2 of us. Oh!
Wait, what?
You said, "Oh no, I'm yellow," and I said that makes 2 of us.
Oh. I can't make that joke, but you can.
That is an ethnic joke. Yes, indeed.
Yep. Well done. Yeah, 4 times I've done rail, bow, spear, and sword. I haven't gotten fists or shield yet.
Okay.
But not for lack of trying, really, just because they haven't come up in my purple weapon.
Cool.
It's still great. I love it so much.
Really good. It's kind of in the grind phase for me right now. I've cleared it enough times. I've cleared it enough times to get the credits. But it turns out the credits, like many things in that game, is just like not near the end at all.
Oh, that's bizarre. Yeah. There's a strange amount of content in there that is truly delightful, but also really weird.
Yeah, I mean, I have a poster of Achilles in my bedchamber. That's the level of content that they added in there. There's all kinds of design tchotchkes and stuff.
Oh, I got one of those already.
Oh,
you didn't buy that first? Poster of Achilles, bed for the dog. Like, screw all the upgrades to the chambers. Like,
did I get a bed for Cerberus yet? Fuck,
dude, that's rude, man. He's a good boy.
All right. Next stream Thursday. Stream after that the following Thursday, because if I recall correctly, you are doing your patriotic duty, and
I'm doing 4 times my patriotic duty.
What does that mean?
It means the polls are open Saturday through Tuesday, which is why I'm not doing the stream, because like there are 4 days of polls, which is very weird.
There's 4 days of polls. Is this the first year that there's 4 days of polls?
Yes, and literally nobody knows. So the first 3 days, I'll probably just be sitting there like playing Hades on the Switch at the polls while waiting for nobody to show up.
That's actually phenomenal. I'm glad the state really pulled it together. Like, I gotta hand it to them. They mailed a ballot to everybody, and they're doing 4 days of advanced polling because they really, really do not want people to be.
Yeah, I honestly, I can't say enough positive things about how they're handling it, except for like making me work 4 days. The entire they've removed precincts from like the at least for Alameda County. I don't know if you recall the experience of voting where you would like go to the place and be like, they're like, sorry, your place is like down the street. Please go there instead.
There are about five. There's like 20 churches in my neighborhood. North Berkeley
Yeah.
is like filled with churches,
Mm-hmm.
and
And they're all polling places.
they're all polling places, and they're all named slight variations. The Church of Christ Scientist, the Scientist Church of Christ. That sort of like permutative,
Yep.
combinatorial kind of.
Yep. This time, none of that.
Yeah.
They closed. They had 700 polling places last election. They closed them down to 100, consolidated for each neighborhood. And every polling place has an iPad with a digital registry, so it doesn't even matter if you show up at the right one. You just look them up and say, "Is this your address?" They print the ballots on demand in the language of your choice instead of like trying to distribute a bunch of like evenly distributed language ballots per location. They actually like they coveted pretty well.
I'm curious to know what effect that will have. Ostensibly, that sounds like a more working class friendly outcome.
Mhm.
Obviously, for national politics, everything's gerrymandered to hell. It won't matter. It won't change anything. But for local politics, I wonder what that will mean.
Me too.
Or state politics, even.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I hope that the rest of the state gets on this sort of system because it works really well from my training.
Are people hoodwinked? Is your sense that people are getting hoodwinked by all the Prop 22 ads? Is that going to win?
I think it is. I voted against Prop 22 because it's bullshit, but they spent so much money on it.
Yeah.
I remember, was it in the 2016 election where there was like a prescription drug price limit bill in California that like Bernie Sanders was really behind, but all the drug companies just like spent $100 million on it, and that was the previous most expensive proposition, and it won in a landslide.
The Costa-Hawkins repeal must have been hugely.
Yeah,
Like that was what, 2 years ago?
that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, because we campaigned against that, right? Or we campaigned for it, rather.
Yes.
Yeah,
I like it. It's back on the ballot this year too, but like in a tinier version, but a good tiny. Is
that the one that they kind of slipped in there and they said that like it was like, we're gonna change the rules so you can take your property tax rate that you currently have at your current residence, and if you were forced out of your residence due to a wildfire, you can take your tax base of your less expensive property and move it to, or potentially replace the tax base of your potentially more expensive property that you were forced to move into, because that's like the headline in the ballot. But I think what's tacked on in there as well is that like we're also going to raise property taxes for shitheads who are inheriting their house. But that's just the writer. That's just in there.
I think that's that's one of them. And I thought there was like
it's 15. I want to say. Anyways,
that sounds right. But I thought there was even another one.
There is another one. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently just like everyone, there's one that like allows rent control again.
Yes.
I was very happy about that.
It allows local governments to impose their own rules.
Oh yeah, that's Prop 21, which is, I guess it's just like they piecemealed out the Costa-Hawkins repeal into like you can't fight 10 or 3 propositions instead of 1, and maybe it worked. I hope so. But I think Prop 22 is like doomed to succeed, which I'm super brokenhearted about. We'll see. I've only seen Republicans in the SF Chronicle endorse it though, so maybe not.
Prop 22. Like, what do you think the average tech worker would vote for?
I mean, tech workers are Republicans, so yes.
Are they?
I feel like mostly, yeah. Like secretly, or they're liberals who want to be fair and balanced, which are just old Republicans.
I was waiting outside a supermarket the other day, and I looked at the signage, and I saw there was a slate for the Berkeley housing, the rent board.
Oh, was it the slate of landlords for diverse representation?
It was the slate of homeowners, and I'm like, that is like totally the Trumpian kind of like saying the quiet part loud. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm like an evil overlord.
Yep. Yeah, and they're like, we want homeowner representation on the rent board too, and I'm just like, do you?
Do we? I don't really know. No, I don't think I want landlords dictating the rules.
Nope,
They already own the fucking house. They've got the power.
It's like asking a wolf to watch the hen house. Be like, definitely don't eat the chickens. I know you're in control of the rent, but like, definitely don't raise it. That won't happen.
No, it's like, no, we are well-sated wolves. We just like have the IVs hooked up. We take like kind of like the shot of blood, and then chase it with the wheat grass or whatever. You know, it's like very healthy in East Bay. I mean, we just want more of that. We want that done efficiently.
Oh,
that's what they want. That's what they're going.
Thankfully, like the Berkeley Rent Board seems to actually, I don't know. I voted for the socialist slate, which seems to keep winning, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Let's never forget that Peter Thiel had the blood of young people injected into him to stay younger.
Okay. How's old Peter Thiel now?
I think he's still a vampire, and I think when given the chance, they will actually take.
We should Belmont
take the shot of blood.
Yeah, we should Belmont his ass.
Oh man, Jeff, I've rented out the new Parkway Friday night to watch Van Helsing, one of my favorite crappy vampire movies. Is
that the one with Hugh Jackman in it?
Mm-hmm.
You rented out the whole theater?
That's their shtick now. Is like you can rent out the theater and they'll serve you dinner and popcorn.
Wait, and so who else is going with you?
Me and Kat and some friends probably.
Okay, but it's like a small number of people that you have going there, right?
Oh yeah, 4 to 8.
Okay, so it's like it could pass as a COVID bubble kind of. Right?
Yeah, and they're actually requiring us to like give everyone's names in advance, and they're going to check IDs. And apparently, we're going to be observed during the filming to make sure we maintain social distancing inside the theater.
And they're going to have very powerful fans on, like running.
Yeah, you can't even hear the movie.
Exactly.
They don't even turn on the projector. It's weird. The lights are on the whole time.
It's very strange, but you know, but it's fun. We do what we can in these hard times.
But you just got me with the Belmont, so that's that.
That's fantastic, though.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I'm happy to support the Parkway, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll Belmont and Van Helsing Peter S.
And
I mean that mostly figuratively, but I kind of also mean it literally.
I mean, look, man, if the revolution happens, like, let him be first against the wall.
Yeah.
We'll probably be second because we're tech workers, but like, him first.
I would take that. I would take second against the wall if the right people were first against.
Yeah, you'd go out knowing that things were going to be okay-ish.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, happy Halloween, and I'll see you Thursday.
Yeah, let's do it. Nice optimizing. Good coding session.
We got
coding
frames.
session, bro.
Crush that code, bro.